Hello guys, this is your friend Shinobi Addict 2.0 and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto fell into the Kaguya the gods during Chunnin exam and Harem part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Crap. How did this happen? Shouted Naruto Uzumaki as he was flying through the air after being blown away by an insanely powerful gust of wind. He sailed through the air as a giant serpent appeared out of nowhere and attempted to swallow him. Its strike, however, missed when the blonde's back hit a tree branch, causing him to flip, narrowly avoiding being eaten by the serpent. Fuck! He screamed as he slid down the serpent's back and fell into a hole by chance. The serpent angrily hisses as it began burrowing into the ground to track down its prey. In the hole, Naruto was falling through a tunnel and kept hitting walls, making him bounce around like a pinball. Finally he landed on his back. He laid there for a few moments, groaning in pain before getting up and, his back popped a few times. Ow. 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 That was not befitting of a future Hokage. He mumbled to himself before taking note of his surroundings. He looked and jaw dropped as he saw a mummy. He screamed in terror. He paused then chuckled as he spoke to himself. Faye, it's just a wrapped up body. It's not like it's alive or cursed or anything. I've been reading too many scary stories. He approached the altar the mummy laid on and read the inscription carved into the stone that read, "Here lies the rabbit goddess. May her sacrifice always be remembered." The blonde scratched his head as he thought out loud, "Rabbit goddess. Sacrifice. Wonder what that's all about. Oh well, time for me to leave, maybe I'll tell the old man about this place." As he turned to find an exit, a few drops of blood from when he tumbled down the tunnel dropped to the floor, near the altar. As he walked away he heard a slight shuffling noise. He gulped as he turned and saw the mummy had fallen on the floor. His blood turned cold as he saw a tongue creep through the bandages and lap up the drops of blood that came from his wounds. His blood ran cold as the mummy stood up and unwrapped the bandages around its head, showing a dried up and decomposed skull, making the blonde shriek in horror. The skull soon grew flesh, then muscle, then skin, showing a middle-aged woman with odd horn protrusions on her head, long silvery hair that touched the ground, pupilless gray eyes, and what looked to be a closed third eye on her forehead. He blushed noticing her ample showing due to the fact she was only wearing the bandages. She turned to him as she held out her hand and approached him. The blonde stepped back nervously, fearing she was going to attack. Sensing his distress she stopped and asked in a regal tone, "I have a simple question and I expect an honest answer." He nodded, fearing for his life. She then continued speaking, "Do you have any carrot cake?" He instantly face vaulted as he shouted, "What kind of a question is that?" Her only reply was, "Do you have carrot cake?" She spoke slowly as though he were an idiot. He knew why she was talking like that as he replied in the same slow tone, "I have none." She nodded as she spoke, "Why didn't you just say so? Do you have any muffins then?" He slapped his forehead, making her realize he didn't. "I see. Then allow me to ask another question. Why do you have yukai in your blood?" She asked with an air that said, "Answer or die." He stiffened up, not knowing how she knew about that. "I'm a Jinchuriki," he finally answered. She tilted her head to the side as she casually replied, "I see. My idiot son was one for a time. My idiot son separated the jubi into several pieces. Which do you have?" He calmed down a bit as he answered, "The Kyubi. And your son was a Jinchuriki?" She nodded at his question as a kimono formed around her, covering her body, making him gape. "Yin-yang release. The power to create from nothing," she bluntly answered, making him nod slowly and once again ask, "Your son was a Jinchuriki, right? Do tell." She pursed her lips for a moment before answering, "Perhaps you should listen to my story. But first I have to know. What year is it?" He realized that since she'd been dead she obviously didn't know what the date was, duh. He thought in his mind, then answered her, 2014 AS. After Senin. She nodded as she spoke, "My name is Kaguya Otsutsuki. Long Long ago I was a princess of a faraway land. The world was in turmoil. There was constant fighting. I ended it by eating a forbidden fruit that led to me being the first human to use chakra. I used my power to stop the wars by force since none would listen to reason. When the wars finally ended, I became known as the Rabbit Goddess and gave birth to 2 children. Both boys. They inherited my chakra and I trained them to use it. Unbeknownst to me, by eating the fruit I unleashed the Jubi, Shinju. Its wrath was terrible as it sought to take back what I had stolen. I was old and weak, so my children fought the Biju in my stead. One died in the battle, the other became the Jubi's prison, thus the first Jinchuriki. My idiot son then used his vast power to spread chakra to other humans so they may connect to each other. But, I warned him what would happen if he did that. Because of the vast power I showed, humans in their greed decided to use it as a weapon, and thus the cycle of violence and war continued. You know my son, as the Raikudo Sennin. The blonde jaw dropped since he was standing in the presence of the Raikudo Sennin's mother, who sounded like she was much stronger. He gulped as he asked, if you're the Sennin's mom, then you must be stronger than him, right? She nodded as she answered, I am. My son's name is Hagoromo. He's an idiot. The blonde sweat dropped at how she kept calling her son an idiot, but shrugged it off as he asked her while Bo Wing, please train me. She bluntly asked, why? Naruto looked her in the eyes as he answered, because I want to be Hokage. The strongest shinobi of my village. Why? She asked again. So I can show the people of Konoha I'm my own person. Not the Kyuubi itself. So I will be respected. He answered with a grin, not seeing her narrowed eyes. Why? She asked bluntly, yet again making a tick mark appear on his eyebrow. Because from the day I was born people have ignored and bullied me because I contain the Kyuubi. I want them to acknowledge me. For my team to acknowledge me. He spoke, getting irritated by this woman's questioning. She said nothing for a while, then spoke bluntly, I don't like you. You're stupid. He instantly face vaulted at that. He got up and then asked, how are you alive exactly if you're supposed to be dead? She shrugged as she answered, don't know. My first theory is the Ukiah in your blood revived me for reasons unknown. Now if you'll excuse me. I'm going to hunt down a bakery. She clapped her hands as the roof of the tomb exploded, exposing the treetops of the forest of death. She leapt up and exited the tomb with the blonde following behind. She looked around and thought, the trees have reached abnormal heights. My potent chakra must have affected them even after I was buried in that tomb. I'm not done talking to you yet. I want you to train me. Spoke Naruto as he tapped his foot impatiently. I refuse. I don't waste my time with idiots. She was about to leave but sensed a potent chakra signature that was filled with evil. Hey, I'm talking to you. I'm not no idiot. He yelled at her. She turned and said, so you are an idiot. I said I'm not no idiot. He yelled angrily. Her eye twitched as she spoke in her usual regal voice, though this time filled with annoyance, did you not learn grammar? Double negative rule. The words, not, and, no, cancel each other out, so you are calling yourself an idiot. If you wish to be taken seriously, you should start with learning to speak properly. He couldn't come up with a response for that as he stayed silent for a few moments. She sighed as she asked, do you at least know your name, idiot? He nodded as he answered, Naruto Uzumaki. Future Hokage. She looked away, clearly unimpressed as she thought, no doubt he's the reincarnation of my idiot grandchild. How disgusting. She sighed, completely forgetting the evil chakra she sensed in favor of getting away from this idiot. Before the blonde knew it, she had disappeared. Hours later. My home, she whispered to herself after finding the Uzumaki shrine, that was actually her former home while she lived. It still contained the mask of the Shinigami, and various other artifacts sealed away and hidden. She sighed as she sat down and propped her head in her hand as she mumbled, time has not been kind to this place, nor my legacy. Idiot child. Idiot humans. Everyone's an idiot. She sighed. All her life she has been surrounded by idiots. Her servants from when she was both a princess and goddess, her own children, her grandchildren, even other humans. All were idiots to her. Even after death she had kept an eye on her idiot son's legacy, she was not pleased. It was all one bad choice after another. Her son Hagoromo gave the world chakra without thinking of the consequences, and about the greedy, power-hungry side of human nature. Her two grandchildren fared no better. Love to peace. What a joke. If someone raped and murdered someone close to you, would you forgive them? Would you love them? No, you wouldn't. You'd want justice. Her other grandchild's solution was power. Kaguya sighed as she had tried that, and it worked, for a time. While it had stopped the fighting, it was only temporary. A short-term solution that ultimately failed in the long run. Peace is a lie, she mumbled to herself. She sighed again for what seemed like the 100th time in a single day. Here she was, stuck in an unfamiliar time, humans still greedy and disgusting as ever, her son's legacy a disgrace, and the Biju all locked away in humans-like toys. It disgusted her. This is why I hate idiots. She spoke to herself again. She glanced at the massive forest where she had exited earlier and focused her sensory powers on it. She sensed a dark malevolent chakra that was unfamiliar to her. She got up from her seat as she mumbled in annoyance, "It's better than sitting and grumbling all day." Elsewhere, Naruto had just woken up after that fight with the weird snake guy, and saw his friend Sasuke snap the arms of Zaku. Sasuke also had strange marking on his face too. Flame-like ones that kept spreading. The blonde couldn't believe that his friend was doing this. That he would do something so cruel. Zaku was on the ground passed out from the pain of having his arms snapped. The Uchiha pulled out a kunai as the BL. Own shouted, "Oi, Sasuke! What are you doing?" The Avenger just grinned maniacally as he replied, showing these fools the might of an Uchiha. Before he brought the kunai down he felt his hand being grabbed by an extremely firm grip. Kaguya-san. The blonde shouted, realizing who it was. The silver-haired woman nodded to the blonde since he at least had the brains to remember her name. She turned to the raven-haired boy as she spoke, "There is no honor in killing someone that can't fight back. Even if he's an enemy." The Uchiha scowled as she spit back, "Screw honor. This is about showing my power." She quirked an eyebrow as she thought, that sounded familiar. She sensed that the brat was the reincarnation of her other, more violent grandchild. "Hey, let go of Sasuke-kun, you old hag!" screeched a voice from behind her. The rabbit goddess raised an eyebrow at the old hag comment, then realized that her skin was getting wrinkled, and she started feeling weaker. "What is this? I thought that I was revived," she thought in panic, then her nose caught the scent of something, blood. Naruto's blood. Within the blink of an eye she grabbed him and started licking at his wounds. The sensual sight made everyone blush, aside from Sasuke who was growling in anger. As the goddess licked up more blood her skin returned to its younger, more healthy appearance. From that she concluded in her mind, "Damn. It would seem I need this idiot's blood in order to survive. Damn it." Single quote. As she continued consuming blood the sound team took this chance to leave, though the female Kintsuchi was quite reluctant. When they vanished the Uchiha grit his teeth believing the strange woman was the reason his prey had escaped. In rage he charged at her but his face met an invisible wall that suddenly he fell flat on the ground and was being crushed. Barrier release. Crush. The rabbit goddess whispered, not amused at all by his attempted attack. "Hey, leave him alone," yelped the whiskered teen, forgetting that she was consuming his blood. She sighed as she replied, "Why? He attacked me. This is self-defense." This time instead of backing down, he gave her a stare that seemed like it tried to burn a hole through her. Fine. But if he attacks me again I won't be as forgiving." She spoke in an uncaring voice, not intimidated at all by his glare but slightly impressed. He nodded stiffly as the barrier keeping Sasuke down lifted. "Hey, what was that move? Teach it to me," Sasuke shouted as the marks on his face receded. "Why?" the silver hair woman asked. "Because I need power to kill a certain someone," he replied, knowing that always got someone to listen to him. Why? She asked again, wanting to figure out her other grandchild's reincarnation. Because he killed my clan. He half shouted, getting impatient with this woman. Why did he kill you, clan? She asked again. Though this time he stayed silent for a few moments before answering, he claimed it was to test his power. With that she turned her head bluntly, replying, not interested. I don't like brats. He gaped in shock. This was the first time someone said, no, to him. He growled as he was about to charge at the woman again, but was interrupted by Ino Yamanaka, who along with her team arrived moments ago to assist Team 7, asked, pardon my asking, but who are you? This time Kaguya smiled warmly as she replied, finally, a sensible request that was asked politely. My name is Kaguya Otsutsuki. Neji then asked her, where do your allegiances lie? What village are you from? He flashed his Byakugan for a moment and was instantly blinded as he fell to the ground screaming. Her chakra. It's as bright as the sun. Tenten gaped in shock as she thought, what the fuck is she to make Neji do that? As the weapon user tried to help her teammate, Choji couldn't help but ask, those horns on your head real? The goddess nodded, already used to that question during her reign. Why didn't you do anything, Naruto baka? Screeched the pink-haired girl as she hit the blonde on the head, who mumbled, sorry Sakura-chan. Quote, the rabbit goddess got up and asked him, are you going to take that? She just hit you. You have every right to defend yourself. All he did was smile as he replied, it's fine. I could never hurt Sakura-chan. She raised an eyebrow, wondering why he was so docile about being hit. Her first theory was he's a masochist. Her second thought, is he under the influence of something? She used her sensory abilities, focusing on the blonde who was busy making excuses to the pink-haired girl. Suddenly the rabbit goddess sensed objects on the boy's body messing with both his chakra and mind, seals. They were still experimental before my death, but these look refined. Their sole purpose is to stall this boy's mental and physical growth and mess up his chakra control. Perhaps he's not as big an idiot as I thought. She ranted in her mind before thrusting a palm on the boy's back and mumbled, rod release, purge. When her jutsu started, the seals on the boy's body faded away. His eyes shrunk into his head as he groaned, what did you do to me? All she said was, if I am correct, you'll thank me later and stop being an idiot. Goodbye. With those words she vanished, leaving a confused blonde thinking, what did she do? And why did I let Sakura-san hit me? Currently Team 7 and the addition of Kabuto, who warned them of the dangers of opening the scroll, were on their way towards the perimeter of the tower so they may ambush a team for its heaven scroll. Naruto, however, had been acting strange since the horned woman had destroyed the seals on his body that remained a mystery to all. He has been acting twitchy, nervous, jittery in the forest, but during camp he was calm, cool, and would dismiss Sakura or Sasuke's taunts. But right now Naruto felt like he was having a panic attack and he didn't know why. As they leapt through the branches, Kabuto stopped and spoke to them, this way. It's a shortcut. He pointed in the direction of mentioned shortcut, causing Naruto to pale, as his eyes turned a silvery white color as He spoke nervously, guys. I've got a bad feeling. Something doesn't feel right. The Avenger scoffs as he speaks in his usual arrogant tone, what's wrong, dope? Scared of a few tree branches? The blonde's eyes turned a silvery white as he spoke, no. There's blood everywhere. The pink-haired girl looked around as she replied, get your eyes checked, there's no blood. The whiskered teen shook his head furiously, covering his eyes as he began moaning and screamed, no. Blood everywhere. Pain. Death. The man with the yellow eyes. The pale man. The former student fights against him. She fails. He kills her. Cuts her head off. He holds the head by its hair. He cackles. At this, screaming Sasuke, Sakura, and Kabuto slowly back away as the Avenger asked, what's wrong, him? Is he going nuts? You mean you don't know? Asked the silver-haired Chunnin as he adjusted his glasses. Sakura replied, no. He's never been like this. As the blonde's screams died down, he mumbled, "I have to go." With that, he dashed into the woods before they could stop him. With Naruto. Blood, death, evil, greed. The pale man is near. The blonde mumbled as he raced through the trees, guided by a force unknown to himself. As he kept running, the visage of a woman appeared in front of him. "Hold your horses, booyah. You face the pedo as ya are, and your goose is cooked." The blonde hadn't registered he was talking to a spirit as he yelled, "What can I do?" "He's going to kill Anko-chan." The female apparition smirked as she asked, "Anko-chan? Didn't look like you even knew her." He turned his head away as he said, "I can't explain it. She seemed familiar then. But I couldn't remember why. But now memories are coming back to me. Memories long forgotten. Like someone bottled them up behind a dam and the dam has broken. I don't know what Kaguya-san did, but at least it's something good." The spirit crossed her arms as she spoke, "If you're going to save her, then you need an ace. And I know where you can find it. It's pretty close by actually." He was about to sprint off, but the female spirit spoke again, "Listen, half pint. You can either find the ace I'm talking about and have a strong chance at beating the damn body-snatching pedophile. Or charge in and have no chance. Getting you and the trench coat lady killed." He sighed, realizing she had a point, then realized, she was floating. "You're a ghost." He screamed in shock. "Now you notice!" Exclamation mark. "Too slow." She shouted back at the fact he didn't realize she was a ghost till now. After a few seconds he calmed down and asked, "Okay, so who are you?" She pursed her lips, replying, "Name's Damasu." He tilted his head as he asked, "Fool." She turned her head in shame as she replied, "Fitting, given I made some bad choices. Listen to me, I'm the spirit of the body Orochimaru currently has. He uses what is called curse marks, that he brands on people with unique bloodlines and abilities. He uses them to put a piece of his soul into them to corrupt the host. He has an immortality jutsu that lets him switch bodies, but he has to do it every 3 years before the current one rots. He's using my body right now." Quote. He absorbed what she said as he started putting the pieces together. Bloodlines. He must have given Sasuke one. She nodded as she spoke. Yep. With the boy's thirst for revenge and power, he'll be like a puppet for Orochimaru to toy with in not time. Quote. At first Naruto's first instinct was to shout and say Sasuke wouldn't do such a thing, but, somewhere in his mind he knew she had a point. He began to realize that the Uchiha cared about nothing except himself, and about power, though why he didn't realize sooner escaped him. "So what's this ace you keep talking about?" he asked in an attempt to get information, this time instead of throwing a kunai in the dark. "Her name is Kira. The worst piece of violence, anger and hate I've ever seen. She was cloned by Orochimaru using his own DNA. She was one of his first experiments to create the ultimate killing machine, but it was a hit and miss. He succeeded in making her the perfect assassin and killer. But he lost control and had to seal her up. She's supposed to be stronger than the pedo anyway." The blonde scratched his head as he asked, "Lost control, how exactly?" Damasu's hair shadowed her eyes as she answered, "The constant experiments made her lose her mind. She's now a cannibalistic psychopath." He gaped in horror as he screamed, "You want me to wake up a man-eating psycho?" She shrugged as she spoke, "Hey, it's not a perfect plan, but at least then your chances will go from none to slim. If you succeed, then they'll go from slim to guaranteed." He sighed, knowing it was likely his only option as he spoke, "Fine. Where is this Kira?" The spirit pointed down as she replied, "Right below you." He sweat dropped as he deadpanned, "That's convenient." She nodded as she shrugged and spoke, "No kidding, it is like you're meant to be here." He said nothing as he navigated through the bushes with her guidance and found a door hidden under a thick layer of mud and leaves. After using several NES to take off the natural camouflage and opening the heavy steel door, he saw a dark hallway. He gulped and made his way inside quickly. He passed by rooms that were filled with skeletons, preserved organs and body parts, and a room that appeared to have blueprints on the curse mark, which he'd eye. Investigate at another time. Finally, he found himself in a room that had a perfect carbon copy of Orochimaru. If it weren't for her and beautiful feminine features, he would have mistaken her for the real Orochimaru. Oi! Wake up, brat. Take the seal off her chest. Spoke Damasu with impatience. Well, excuse me. I don't fancy the idea of being gutted by a psychopath. He yelped out. With great hesitance, he approached the table the pale girl laid on, then with a quick yank tore the seal that covered her chest below the collar bone. Within a few seconds, her eyes snapped open as she began to sit up. Her head slowly turned to the blonde. He gulped as he saw her eyes were filled with not an ounce of kindness, no love, no joy, no humor. Her eyes shined with fury, insanity, and hunger. He slowly backed up as she let out a mad screech. Faster than he could blink, she pinned him to the wall as she began singing, "Hush, little baby, don't say a word, Mama's gonna buy you a mockingbird." Quote. He struggled against her grip as a kunai suddenly appeared from her sleeve and fell into her free hand as she spoke to herself, where to cut? Gut, groin, throat, or legs? The blonde's blue eyes changed to silvery white again as he spoke in a woman's voice, "Enough, my little hubby." Quote. The pale cannibal grunted out, "Did the brat's balls drop off?" The blonde slapped her as he said, "Don't talk to me that way, Kira Koi." The girl and the unseen ghost Damasu were in shock. What is this? He hit me. All just piss themselves and croak. Kira, you leave this boy alone this instant. The blonde yelled, causing her to ask, "This boy? Who are, mommy?" She asked at the end, realizing who the voice belonged to. The possessed body of Naruto nodded as Kira's mother spoke, "Correct, my child. This boy is unique. I believe him to possibly be a seer. But that is irrelevant. He freed you, and needs your help to defeat your damned sperm donor. I implore you, find a way to balance out your madness, find something, to gain at least a minimal form of normalcy." The crazed girl nodded as she spoke, "I promise, mother. I will avenge you and myself, then try to find something worth living for. Like I promised you all those years ago." The possessed blonde nodded as her mother spoke again, "Good. I'm glad you at least remember that. I'm afraid my time has run out. I only regret who your creator is." With that, the blonde's eyes changed back to blue as he mumbled, "That was weird. Felt like I downed 8 packs of soda at once." "You were aware then?" asked the pale cannibal. He nodded as he answered, "Yes. I heard everything. I'm sorry about your mother. While she was taking over, I saw everything. I saw her death." Her eyes narrowed slightly as she spoke, "Not another word, please. That is an event I wish to not bring up. It's an old wound. I don't want it reopened after just waking up. Hearing my mother's voice has opened it some, but also brought me closure. For that I thank you." He nodded as he spoke, "You're welcome. Now you must help me." She nodded as the two ran off. Damasu smiled as she said to herself, "Well, at least I can have indirect revenge against that pedo for taking my body." With her feeling her purpose fulfilled, she crossed over into the light and into the afterlife. Elsewhere, an hour later. "I've got you now, sensei. Now if I can borrow your left hand," spoke Enko as she grabbed his left hand and manipulated it into a certain hand sign. "I see. The twin snake sacrifice. You intend to kill me by sacrificing yourself," spoke Orochimaru in feigned fear. Suddenly he turned into mud, making her realize it was a mud clone as she cancelled the jutsu. "You see, Anko-chan, I taught you everything you know. You might be a Tokubetsu Jonin, but you're still a little fish. Do me a favor and go tell dear Hiruzen-sensei that if he cancels the Chunnin exams, I'll destroy Konoha." She scoffed as she said, "What's the fucking point? You'll do it anyway, you fucking pedophile asshole. I swear that when you die I'll piss on your ashes." His eyebrow twitched slightly at her insults as he cruelly smiled, "I was going to let you live a bit longer. But you've just ended my patience." He pulled out the kusanagi ready to chop her head off when out of nowhere, Oro team. The two snake users turned and saw a familiar blonde approaching, Naruto-kun. Exclamation mark quote. Yelled Anko while the pale Sanin sneered at the fact he had to deal with this loudmouth again. Come to die brat. He spoke with a sadistic smirk. The blonde grinned as he shook his head and spoke, nope. I brought backup this time. The two snake users tilted their heads in confusion before the Sanin could even move. A blur kicked him in the face, sending flying into a tree. When he got his bearing, he saw the last creature he'd ever want to see, Kira. Exclamation mark quote. He screamed in shock, wondering how such a simpleton found where she was being held, but what he couldn't figure out was how in the hell he reasoned with her. The cannibal grinned as she spoke, time to die, Papa. Her smile changed from gleeful to sadistic and cruel quickly. She went through hand signs as she spoke, poison release, venom C. Her throat bulged as she spewed out a vast amount of poison on the ground, which quickly rotted the roots away, causing trees to tumble like dominoes. As Orochimaru leapt from tree to escape being crushed, he thought, damn it. Damasu's body isn't strong enough to handle Kira. I wasn't prepared for this. His thoughts were interrupted as his hands were pinned by kunai on the base of a tree. Kira's venom hadn't rotted. I'm going to enjoy eating you, Papa. She spoke with pure maniac glee. He sweated forever, regretting creating such a powerful force of nature. For Kira wasn't just made of flesh and blood. She was death. She was pure evil that walked on two legs. And he couldn't control such savage strength. Kira's only purpose in life was for the kill. Nothing else. Her speed, strength, animalistic savagery, crazed mind, and unparalleled talent in killing makes her easily the most dangerous creature to exist, not counting the Biju, of course. He grit his teeth as he regurgitated himself, ejecting out of his skin, and quickly dashed away to escape from his creation's fury. Run fast as you can. You aren't the gingerbread man. I'll find you. I swear. I'll find you and kill you, then eat your carcass. She screamed as loud as her lungs allowed her into the woods as her creator fled. Back with Naruto, he sighed in relief at taking the spirit's advice. He was quickly bopped on the head by Anko, who shouted, damn it Gaki. WHO asked you to save me. He rubbed the lump on his head as he replied coolly, would you rather have gotten killed? She was about to speak, but her mouth opened and closed a few times before she said, fine. I'll give ya that. Who's the mini Orochimaru? The pale cannibal answered, I am Kira. Who are you two? The blonde slapped his head since he never gave her his name as he spoke, Naruto Uzumaki. Then the Tokubetsu Jonin spoke, I'm Anko Mitarashi. Quote. Kira nodded as she spoke, I shall make sure none approach. Please excuse me, Naruto-sama. With that she disappeared in a whirl of leaves as he mumbled, Sama. Why'd she call me that? The Dango lover shrugged as she spoke, no idea. But thanks for the help. I'm not exactly used to being rescued. He nodded as he replied in a calm tone, nope. You tend to be the rescuer, Anko-chan. Her eyes widened, then she smirked as she spoke in a sultry tone, oh, so now you remember. I'm hurt. She fake cried at the end. Several years back Anko and Naruto were inseparable. But then came the nightmares, and the visions, seeing things before they happened. When they first started she cast them off as hallucinations, but then he warned her one night, don't go home tonight. She ignored his warning and headed home, but before she opened the door to her apartment he screamed for her to not open her door. She absent-mindedly opened it, causing a paper bomb to explode. Fortunately he got her to a hospital before she bled out from the shrapnel, which missed her major organs and arteries by sheer luck. She brought up the visions to the Hokage, who was quite curious about them, but had no idea what to make of them. During her stay at the hospital Naruto visited her every day, bringing her dango, and sometimes flowers to brighten up the room. She didn't like flowers. But it was the thought that counted. Then one day, he just stopped coming. So why the fuck have you been ignoring me, cheeky brat? She asked angrily while pinching his cheek. He cried a bit from the pain as he said, I don't really know. That Kaguya woman did something to me. Now memories are flooding back to me. About you. About Kurenai. All of the girls. Being in the T&I division, she knew lies from truth just by hearing the tone of voice. Very few could fool her ears with their voice, and her eyes with their body language. In this instance, she was hearing truth. She let go of him as she asked, "Okay, why the fuck are you remembering everything now of all times? Why'd you forget anyway?" He shrugged, not knowing the answer himself, making her sigh in frustration. "Well, whatever. As a thanks, I'll give you a free pass at the exams. Perks of being a proctor. As a bonus, I'll take you there myself. I got a report in about all this anyway." He nodded happily as Kira came back holding two people by the necks. "Naruto-sama, these suspicious people attempted to approach." "Ochiyu." He face-palmed himself as he spoke. "First, those are my teammates, so put 'em down. Second, why do you keep calling me Sama?" The pale girl dropped the two who had swirls in their eyes as she replied casually, "You freed me from my prison and gave me the opportunity for revenge. For that I thank you, and Mama always said to never leave a debt unpaid. However, if you deny me my revenge, I'll kill you. Otherwise, I'm yours to command." He quickly nodded, not wanting to die as he spoke. "Well, pick those two up and let's go." She nodded, picking up Sasuke and Sakura as Anko spoke in her usual energetic tone. "All right. Try to keep up. I can't promise I'll slow down." Elsewhere, Kaguya was casually walking down the streets of Konoha, observing the hearts and minds of the people. From her calculations, 42% of the villa GE seemed either neutral or good by her terms, but the other percentage was filled with bigots, idiots, and power-hungry fools. Most of which being commanded by the civilian council and elders, as they were called. She has been receiving odd looks all afternoon by people who noticed the horn-like protrusions on her head. She could use a genjutsu to hide them, but then she felt like she'd saying that she's ashamed of them, for which she wasn't. So she let the odd looks slide. Right now she was being followed by a man who had lecherous emotions running around. She sighed and asked in her usual regal tone, "Can I help you?" He nodded as he asked, "Why yes, what's such a noble-looking woman doing here?" Quote. She simply replied, "I'm looking for a bakery." He grinned as he spoke with a perverted blush, "I bet you could do with some stuffing in your muffin." She casually replied, "I like stuffing in muffins." Unknown to him, she didn't catch the innuendo because her mind was solely focused on baked goods right now. "Perhaps I should introduce myself. I'm the guy all men bow before. The man women beg to bed them. The ultimate inspiration for authors around the elemental nations. The wise and immortal spirit. I am Jiraiya, the Toad Mountain Sage." He ranted while making odd poses. The white-haired woman deadpanned as she replied flatly, "I am Kaguya Otsutsuki. I don't like you. You're an idiot. And I'm the one that's going to kick you where it hurts." Before he could react, she kicked him between his legs, making his eyes bug out as he bent over, clutching his manhood. As she walked away, she thought she heard him groan, "I think, one, popped." She smiled at her handiwork, then noticed a bakery. She entered and shoved her way past the other customers in line, then spoke, "I want every kind of muffin you have and 3 whole carrot cakes." She discreetly used her yin-yang release to create the current form of currency and placed it on the counter. The clerk spoke, "Ma'am, please go to the back of the." Her voice died in her throat as the silver-haired woman's eyes narrowed as though she were daring the clerk to finish what she was saying. "I demand you take my order now. I've been in a tomb for years. I'm on my period. And I just busted the balls of a pervert. My vagina's bleeding, ergo my period." Too much info. Everyone in the shop screamed, completely shocked at her bluntness. The clerk nodded stiffly and got her order done as quickly as possible. With that done, she left with the baked goods in tow. At the preliminary tower. A.N. All fights up to Naruto vs. Kiba are canon. Closing square bracket. Naruto was facing down Kiba Inuzuka, who was currently boasting about being Hokage. During his rant, the blonde was thinking, Hokage. 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 A word I've said countless times. Now I have to ask myself, why do I want to be Hokage? Even if I do become Hokage, there's no guarantee I'll get the respect and acknowledgement I want. Is being Hokage my dream? Or the dream that someone else wanted me to go for? His musing was broken when Hayate said, "Begin." Kiba smirked as he charged at the blonde. The whiskered boy got his guard up, but he noticed time appeared to be slowing down. The visage of a hooded figure appeared as it spoke. "You have a gift, child. A gift easily squandered by the paranoia and manipulation of others. Heed my advice. Do not waste the teachings of the rabbit goddess. For it is through her you shall find both power and purpose." The figure disappeared as time returned to normal. In his shock, Kiba landed a punch on the blonde with ease. As the whiskered teen fell back, the dog ninja spoke in a Tao Nting manner. "Tch. That's weak. Easy match for me. Ya dead last." The blonde got up as he spoke calmly. "Dead last, a title given to me by my class and Sensei Iruka. You know, things have been clearer. I mean, sure I pulled pranks, sure I had problems in school, I trained and trained, but the problem wasn't my training, it was Iruka's teaching. Sure, he didn't help because he didn't want to show favoritism, but favoritism is giving help to someone that doesn't need it. I did, and Iruka sensei didn't try to help even though he knew my problem." This confused the Genin and Kira, who was hidden behind the stone hands, but the Jonin, Hokage, and Chunnin knew what the boy was hinting at in his rant. "Then came my team. Sasuke, a pretty boy that keeps yapping about power, power, power and killing someone. Who ignores women and treats them like the plague. Sakura, a bookworm that hasn't contributed to the team at all and fawns over Sasuke all damn day and uses me as a punching bag. Finally, Kakashi, a lazy useless sensei that only taught us teamwork and tree climbing, the latter when we were on a C rank turn A rank. Team 7 is a fucking joke." Most of the Jonin and the Hokage immediately glared at Kakashi at hearing that he only taught his team the bare necessities during an A- rank of all times. It was appalling. "You know what? I'm sick of this. I'm sick of being mistreated. I'm sick of people underestimating me. I'm sick of people thinking Sasuke is the top shit when he's just a bitch boy. I'm sick of not ever being given a fair chance." He shouted at the end as his eyes changed from blue to a purple color, confusing the Jonin. Kiba smirked, not noticing the dangerous aura coming from the blonde as he spoke. "Yeah, you can talk a big game all you want, but I'm the alpha here. I'm going to show that you're at the bottom of the food chain dead last." The blonde smirked as he crossed his fingers. "Let me tell ya something, Kiba, Inuzuka and Akamaru, never underestimate me." He spoke with a grin. In Kira's hiding place, she thought, Naruto-sama's chakra is spiking. Something's welling up in his chakra network. As Akamaru, Kiba's partner, used the man-beast clone, Kiba replied to his opponent, "Oh yeah. Let's test that out dead last." Twin tunneling Fang. The two turned, charged at the blonde as they spun with their clan's trademark taijutsu technique. In the stands, Kurenai noticed that Naruto wasn't like himself at the academy, and now, he is himself. "What happened to you, Naruto-kun?" she thought. As the blonde smirked, he spoke calmly. "Let's test this out. I think it's time I brought down your ego, pal. Barrier release. Crush." The two stopped spinning as they found themselves being crushed into the ground by an invisible force. "Hey, that's the jutsu that weird lady Kaguya-san used," yelled Ino, to which her teammates nodded. Kakashi's visible eye narrowed as he thought, Sasuke mentioned that encounter. How is Naruto using that jutsu? How does it work? As the weight of the force continued pressing down, blood was seeping out both Kiba's and Akamaru's ears. Finally Hayate spoke. "Enough cough. Winner is Naruto, cough Uzumaki." The blonde released the jutsu as he walked up the steps. He wondered, how did I know to use Kaguya-san's jutsu? And those things I said, I felt as if they were my own. And not something I recycled from someone else. He shrugged as he headed up the steps, wondering if his questions could be answered by the rabbit goddess. He wondered if she could answer how he used her jutsu, how he can see spirits, and how he can see premonitions of future events. He sighed, not knowing how to even find her. For now, he'll just revel in his victory. Back on the other side of the arena, Gaara was thinking, he's not like before. He's different. I wonder, will he make a better challenge than the Uchiha? Unknown to the redhead, in his mindscape the Aikibi was stirring uncomfortably, already sensing the kind of chakra the blonde had. That power. It's like the Oba Sands. If he's connected to her, Kami help those that get in that kid's path. Kaguya sat silently at her home, the Uzumaki shrine, as she ate the carrot cake and muffins she bought, while sipping lemon tea. She looked at her reflection in her teacup as she mumbled to herself, everyone is an idiot. Even me. Centuries ago she used the infinite Tsukuyomi to cast an eternal genjutsu on all life so that there would be no more war, however it proved a mistake. In her attempts to keep the Shinju tree from absorbing the people connected to it, she made sure to add her own chakra to supplement and keep the people from dying. Which to her horror, caused the people to mutate into white humanoids with green hair called Zetsu. She realized that she had failed and ended the genjutsu by making a deal with the Shinigami. Due to the godlike chakra in her body she would have possibly lived forever, but in exchange for ended the infinite Tsukuyomi she would sacrifice herself. In respect to her the Shinigami gave her 35 years to live and continue her legacy. In the time she had she began hunting the Zetsus to extinction so to correct her mistake. Slowly her days turned sour for her life was depleting, she needed an heir to carry on and find a new solution. Then she met a young Ronin that sought peace as well after leaving his daimyo due to an unneeded clan war. He was strong, handsome, charming, and had a strong sense of justice. Traits which she found appealing, so she had his children. However, during her pregnancy Croesus was murdered by a group of samurai sent by his former daimyo. In retaliation she destroyed said daimyo, only leaving his 8-year-old child to live. Finally she gave birth to 2 sons, and taught them how to use their power. When they came of age she asked them, "It is time. How would you find a solution for peace?" Her younger son, Hagoromo's answer was, "Love." Her older son's Hamura's answer was, "Power." Forgive me if I got the name wrong. Both answers left her disappointed. She had already tried power, and it was only a short-term solution. Once the one who had the power was gone it would leave a vacuum that people would take advantage of. Love was a bit better, but was filled with more holes than power, as proven by Hagoromo, her grandchild Ashura, her grandchild's reincarnation Hashirama and so on. Each one making a mistake that made everything worse than before. She had watched the world from the afterlife, and was displeased. First her idiot child carelessly on a whim, gave the world chakra and greedy humans took advantage of such power just as she had predicted. Then her idiot grandchildren started an endless cycle of fighting against their descendants. Then came Hashirama, the reincarnation of Ashura. The wood user spared Madara, the reincarnation of her other grandchild Indra, which was commendable, and for a time she thought maybe peace had a shonk. But it was dashed to pieces when Hashirama pawned off the Biju and their human containers, without regard to said Biju and containers' feelings or the fact they would be used as weapons. If Kaguya knew one thing it was if you give someone an inch then they'll take a mile. Right when she thought it couldn't get worse it did, when Madara absorbed some of his rival's DNA fusing it together, the result made the Uchiha unstable and lose his mind, becoming a warped version of herself. And this time, he made a black Zetsu who was pure evil incarnate, no morals, no humanity, just a need to feed and destroy all human life. After the Black Zetsu's creation everything went dark. She could no longer observe her warped legacy. She sighed knowing that the boy Naruto would be involved one way or another. Though she preferred he stay out of her way. This was her problem, her fight, her mistake, so it was her duty to clean it up. No matter what. She took another bite of carrot cake, all the while regretting ever birthing her children. A lone tear escaped her eye, for she knew in her heart that she was a cruel woman, for what kind of mother would regret giving life to her own children? Elsewhere, the winners of the preliminaries were lined up, though Naruto was glaring at Neji who attempted to kill Hinata. Sure the blonde didn't know her so well since she was the very definition of the word shy, but he knew she was a sweet girl and didn't deserve that. As they drew lots, Naruto and Neji would be in the first round. He glared at the Hyuga as though trying to burn a hole into the side of his head. Anko passed by the blonde and whispered to him, "Meet me later. Me and Kurenai wanna talk for a quick spell." He discreetly nodded to the snake user. As she walked away, she nodded to her best friend, Kurenai, who nodded back, getting the message. From the stands, Kakashi's visible eye narrowed as he wondered what Anko said to the blonde. As the Hokage talked about the month-long break, the only thing on Naruto's mind was the hooded figure he saw telling him to not waste Kaguya's teachings. He couldn't help but wonder who or what it was underneath that cloak, but it didn't feel normal. After the Hokage dismissed them, he approached Anko and Kurenai, the former known as the Snake Mistress, and the latter the Ice Queen of Konoha and Genjutsu Mistress. Anko was casually munching on some dango while her friend glared at the blonde, asking, "Naruto Uzumaki, why did you forget your best friends?" He felt 2 inches tall under her piercing gaze as he replied, "I don't know how, or why, but from what I understand, someone sealed up my memories." Her eyes narrowed slightly, but she could tell he was telling the truth. She wouldn't put it past someone to try and manipulate the boy due to his status as a Jinchuriki. So we're looking for someone that's got knowledge on sealing. That leaves only a small handful of people. Fewer with motive, spoke Anko as her expression became serious. The red-eyed Kunoichi nodded in agreement as she crossed her arms and began speaking. The top 5 would be the Civilian Council, the Elders, Danzo, Hokage-sama, or Jiraiya. Quote, Naruto scratched his head as he spoke, "I think the council's out. They prefer me dead anyway." The 2 Kunoichi nodded in agreement as she replied, "The elders don't have the stones or influence to do anything on their own anymore, which is why they ride either Hokage-sama's or Danzo's coattails depending on which suits them. So they are out. Danzo's a good suspect, but there's one problem. Sure, he'd want Naruto-kun controlled, but he wouldn't want him hindered. It defeats the whole purpose." Spoke Anko as she began twirling a kunai as she thought while her 2 friends nodded at her asses. Sment as Kurenai concluded, "So that leaves only Hokage-sama and Jiraiya, though I don't know the motive either would have." The blonde shrugged his shoulders as he ended their theorizing, "Only thing we can do is wait and find out for ourselves. Not sure if Sandame's involved, but I bet he at least knows something." They silently agreed with him, knowing that while Hiruzen probably wasn't responsible, he at the least knew who was. The blonde turned his back to the 2 ladies as he waved goodbye, saying, "I'll be on my way. Gotta find a teacher. And I don't want you 2 getting in trouble or something. Later." Elsewhere. Free. Kira spoke to herself as the wind blew around her. She was sitting on top of a random building in Konoha just enjoying her freedom. She could at least feel the sun's warmth, the soft breeze. The feel of grass, new sights and scents. The feeling of being able to move without being chained to a wall, a chance to walk in the daylight without being blinded from being kept in those dark chambers. It was exciting. She smiled warmly, already enjoying everything around her. Though there was one thing that was spoiling her pleasant mood: humans. She viewed them as little more than vermin from the treatment of Orochimaru's assistants, who either she or her father killed. Always the humans would call her names like freak, or animal, or monster. One day a little bird flew into her cell through a tiny window. She fed it some of her food and it became her only friend. One day an assistant saw her feeding her bird, and he and his 2 friends restrained her and killed the poor bird in front of her. When her only friend lied dead, she snapped and ended those 3 men's lives. Orochimaru witnessed the event behind a 2-way mirror and decided instead of a vessel, she would be a better assassin. So he taught her how to kill, to hunt, to murder, cause mayhem, and even bring entire armies with guerrilla tactics. He would dissect her, inject her with drugs, sew back together, then repeat. It never ended for her. But now, she was free. Because of a human boy that allowed her to speak to her mother, Sangeki, Scourge, for one last time. She smiled and would now and forever serve her new master without question. She was bred and made into a weapon, and a weapon is what she'll be. Back with Naruto. The whiskered teen had entered the hospital to check on his new friendly rival Rock Lee, who declared himself Naruto's youthful eternal rival, to which the blonde shrugged off but knew it was Lee's way of saying he acknowledged the blonde, so he just accepted. Currently he was split between finding Kakashi for training or finding someone else. His first thought drifted to Kaguya Otsutsuki, but she had repeatedly refused him. He knew so little about her, except for what she told him about her past. And even that was just a general summarization. He only knew she didn't like idiots or brats, as she said to him then Sasuke. Perhaps, what he needed was his own reason to get stronger, not a reason that would require the approval of others. Even if he became Hokage, it is most assured that the people would not respect him anyway. During his brief train of thought, Kakashi appeared behind him, thinking the blonde was seeking him for training, so he said without warning, "Yo, Naruto, sorry but I'm training Sasuke for when he goes against Gaara." The blonde paid him no mind as his eyes turned silver and he mumbled to himself, "The teacher is the one whose teachings hold value, not the one who fails you." His eyes changed back to blue as he turned and answered a somewhat confused Chunnin, "Forget it, Hatake. I'm not going to beg nor grovel. I'd rather have a real sensei and not someone lazy like you. You didn't even teach the basic chakra exercise till an A- rank of all things. Goodbye and may you pay for your insolence." As the whiskered teen stormed out, the silver-haired man asked no one in particular, when did he learn to talk like that? Quote, outside, Naruto was searching high and low for the mysterious Kaguya Otsutsuki, but she was nowhere to be found. Seriously though, how hard is it to find a regal woman with horns on her head? He sighed in frustration as he sat on a random bench wondering if he'll find her. Then right next to him appeared the hooded figure during his match with Kiba. "Why so glum, my child?" It spoke, making Naruto jump in his seat from shock, before he calmed down and answered, "You told me during my match not to squander the teaching of the rabbit goddess, Kaguya-san. But I can't find her. I'm going to need her help to beat up that Neji bastard." The figure chuckled softly as it answered, "Go out to the outskirts of the village and call her name. If she hears you, she'll come. If she doesn't come right away, then just keep calling. Her ears are sharper than you'd think, my child." As the figure got up and slowly disappeared into ash, the blonde asked, "Who or what are you?" The figure once again chuckled as it replied, "I am man and woman. Saint and devil. Push and pull. Life and death. Heaven and hell. Good and evil. I am everything and nothing at the same time." The blonde scratched his head as he shouted, "That makes no sense." This time a row of shining, gleaming, dangerous teeth appeared from the darkness under the hood as the figure answered, "It's not supposed to." With that it disappeared as though it never existed. Feeling like he had no other option but to do as the stranger told him. Though he couldn't help but wonder what it was hiding under that hood. A man, a woman, some form of demon. Perhaps next time the stranger appeared he'd take the hood off him, her. Elsewhere. The rabbit goddess was inspecting her home to see if any artifacts from her era went missing. The hidden vault below the shrine was filled to the brim with treasures that were tribute to her from various clans in exchange for her protection. Gold, jewels, diamonds, many riches were there. But she could care less about such material things. She could easily create from nothing using yin-yang release. What she was truly concerned for were items like the Shinigami mask, which was still hanging on the walls. As she tapped the walls with her hand, she finally found the hollowed-out, secret compartment where various weapons were. She gaped in horror as they were missing, her gunbai, the sealing jar. All gone. Damn you, Hagoromo. Damn you, you idiot child. Damn your and your brother's souls to hell. Was it not enough you gave humans chakra? You gave them my weapons too. They're too powerful for humans." She screamed in rage, her powerful, godlike chakra flaring, causing a small earthquake. Her rage was cut short as her ears twitched slightly, for she heard someone in the distance calling her name. It was no doubt her grandson's reincarnation, that Naruto boy. She bottled up her frustration and chose to see what he wanted and get it over with. If he hadn't improved, she'd send him away. With a snap of her fingers, she disappeared in a gust of wind, then appeared in front of a rather surprised blonde who said simply, "Damn. That was fast." Her eyes narrowed slightly at him as she asked bluntly, "What do you want, boy?" He got on his knees and bowed to her as he asked, "Please train me, Kaguya-san. My sensei Kakashi Hatake has repeatedly shown favoritism and ignored my need of teaching. Please train me, Kaguya-san. I refuse to take no for an answer. You asked me why I wanted to become Hokage. To be honest, I don't know the reason myself. But here's what I do want. I want to find out who my parents were. I want to know where I came from, why I was chosen specifically to be the Kyuubi's container. My hope is by finding the answers to these questions, I'll find myself. My wish is to be strong. To be so strong my name will ascend to the stars." Quote. She tapped her hip in irritation as she asked him in a bored voice, "Your goal is to be strong?" To which he shook his head and replied, "Strength and power are different. When my time in the world is done, I don't want to disappear with a whisper that falls on deaf ears. I don't want to die a nobody. My goal is to become a legend. A legend so great that a constellation is made by the gods in my image." This caught her attention a bit as she paid more attention, asking him, "So that's your goal? In order to do that, you'll need to perform a great deed. What is it you'll do? Do you think you can conquer all obstacles in your path?" This time he got up and smiled at her as he replied, "I don't want to conquer anything. I just want my dues and justice. That's it." Her eyes widened ever so slightly as the visage of her lover from so long ago appeared behind him. A lone tear escaped her eye before she used one of her slender fingers to wipe it away before speaking in her regal tone, "You have matured much more over the course of the past day. Very well, I shall train you. But be warned, my training is very harsh and at times life-threatening. If you fail, your chances of dying will increase exponentially." He nodded in agreement, making nod back as she spoke, "Then we are in agreement. We begin now." She plucked a single pebble from the ground, then spoke bluntly, "Dodge." With a single motion she flicked the pebble, making it rocket past the blonde as a large number of trees were broken apart. Without a second thought he ran like hell, leaving a dust cloud behind. An hour later. "Are you trying to kill me?" Naruto screamed as he lay panting on the ground in exhaustion from dodging killer pebbles. "Maybe," she bluntly replied, sipping lemon tea, which caused him to cry anime tears at having a possibly psychotic sensei. "So why'd you agree to train me anyway?" he asked, wondering what changed her mind. She took a bite of carrot cake, swallowed, then spoke, "You wised up considerably and reminded me of someone I once knew." He nodded, accepting that answer since he wasn't sure if it was a good idea to pry. She set her teacup down, then asked as she poured more tea, "What have you been taught so far by this Kakashi fellow?" "Tree climbing, and teamwork exercises," he answered curtly, to which she raised an eyebrow, asking, "And?" All he could do was shrug his shoulders, answering, "That's all." She did a spittake on her tea, tapped her fingers on her small table, then asked, "Do you know any jutsu at all? A decent taijutsu at least?" Quote. He felt like he was shrinking under her questioning as he replied while drawing circles on the ground, "Transformation, substitution, and shadow clones. And I don't really have a specific taijutsu style." The rabbit goddess was appalled by his lack of training as she asked one last time, "Can you at least tap into Amiko's chakra?" "Who?" was his only intelligent reply. The silver-haired woman's eyebrow twitched as she thought to herself, "I've got a long way to go with this one. A very long way. This boy had better pray my patience isn't tested." A month later. Naruto bowed to his sensei wearing a monk's cloak while holding a shakuho and a katana on his hip as he spoke, "Thank you for your training, Kaguya-san." She nodded stiffly, then replied in her usual blunt manner, "A month is a very short time. Though you've progressed well, I imagine you can handle any competition in these exams. Though don't for a moment think you're ready to fight those who are both older and more experienced. You've still got a long way to go. He smiled as he kissed her hand in respect before saying, all the same I thank you for your help. And I look forward to more training from you. She nodded then spoke bluntly, beat up Indra's reincarnation. He nodded as he replied back, was planning on it. We'll celebrate my promotion over ramen and carrot cake. She smiled slightly already feeling a certain kinship to the boy. As the blonde walked away she whispered to herself, perhaps he's the one we've been waiting for Croesus. Perhaps he's the one. End chapter 3. Omake. Kaguya has a problem. Kaguya was walking down the street carrying 4 carrot cakes and several bagfuls of muffins when she passed by a certain shop. She slowly turned around and saw a strange box making her speak to the box, what are you doing in tea? Here stranger. Surely it's cramped in there. Today there's a very large chance of rain that could come any second now. Spoke the woman in the box. Rain. It's clear as can be. Not a cloud in the. She was interrupted by a clap of thunder as rain poured from the sky making her jaw drop in disbelief. IEF. She broke the glass as she started shaking the box screaming, are you a seer? How have you predicted the rainfall? Speak to me. In the background a child asked her mother, Mommy why's the weird lady screaming at a TV? She acts like she's never seen one. The day of the Chunnin exams had finally arrived. Neji stood in the center of the field awaiting his opponent, all the while the Hyuga had an arrogant smirk on his face as he believed that the Uzumaki was too cowardly to show his face. In the stands there was a very large space. Due to a certain white-haired woman sitting in the center of the stands alongside a black-haired and pale girl that had a very freakish likeness to a certain Sanin. Kaguya was given a bag by Kira and asked about the contents, what are these puffy things? To which Kira answered, popcorn. The rabbit goddess took one and curiously inspected it, then popped it in her mouth. As she chewed she commented, tastes quite bland. The pale cannibal also ate one and realized, needs butter. She said as she pulled out some popcorn butter from a bag. As the popcorn was buttered Kaguya held a brightly colored can as she asked, what's this? To which Kira answered, soda. You drink it. The white-haired woman's eye twitched in annoyance. Ever since she had re-entered society, she's been rather off. There were so many new things that were never here during her time. There were new foods, new tools, new sights, sounds and smells, and all this technology escaped her. She still had yet to figure out the box that Naruto called the television. It still eluded her how people could fit inside the box, people that could predict the weather, and put on plays of all sorts. And there was that time she encountered that fire demon. Mini flashback. Kaguya was in Naruto's apartment kitchen investigating everything that caught her attention. Currently she was poking and prodding at some form of machine that was attached to his wall. She pushed something and it made a beep sound, prompting her to keep pushing it to continue making the strange sound. All of a sudden it burst into flames making her cry out, a demon. Die. She sent a blast of water at it causing a massive explosion. It was this scene that Naruto entered in on as he asked, why, is there a hole in my wall? And where's my damn stove? The violet-eyed woman turned to the hole and replied, there was a fire demon. He face-palmed himself as he replied, that wasn't a demon. It was my stove. An oven. We use it to cook food. She tilted her head to the side as she spoke, in my era, we cooked our food over a wood fire. His eyes narrowed making her sigh and say calmly, I apologize for destroying your property my student. She snapped her fingers causing a hammer, nails and boards to appear in her hands as she started repairing the hole in the wall making the blonde ask, can't you just use that yin-yang release to fix this? Quote. She kept hammering the boards together as she replied, I could. But I don't believe in using shortcuts unless needed. As an apology I'll teach you something good, the Raikudo no Ken. Flashback end. She found Naruto to be a most excellent student. He was the kind that needed to learn through trial and error, and through hands-on training. She found that going into a long explanation would confuse him, so she decided to sum the explanation up and then teach by example, which proved quite successful. Plus Naruto taught her about all the new things in this era, and when he wasn't around, Kira did her best to try to help the rabbit goddess get used to the new era. Back in the arena, the current Proctor Genma sighed. He had nothing against Naruto, but rules were rules, so he began to speak. Due to his absence, Naruto Uzumaki, he was interrupted by a voice that yelled out, "Has just arrived." Everyone looked up and saw the blonde flying through the air. When he landed, he casually twirled a shakuho, then spoke, "Yo. Naruto Uzumaki is here to kick and take names." From the stands, the rabbit goddess sighed. While she had made him take things much more seriously with her training, he still acted a bit immature at times. Though when she commented this to him, he commented back and quote, "Look who's talking." The rabbit goddess, who's got an obsession with carrot cake. She still never understood why people called her rabbit goddess, as she scratched at the base of her horns. As Neji went into a rant about fate, a certain pink-haired banshee sat next to Kaguya saying, HMPH, that Naruto Baka may look cool with that monk's cloak and shakuho, but there's no way he could beat Neji. Kaguya's eyebrow twitched in annoyance. She despised fangirls and fanboys with her entire being. Mainly because priests that worshipped her would often put her on a pedestal in front of a large crowd. Many members of said crowd would approach her and request blessings, and in some cases marriage, from both. It actually flattered her at first, but it quickly became old and tedious to the point she thought of just flying away. Though in this case it was just one, and it happened to be a girl with a split personality that basically worshipped the reincarnation of her grandchild Indra. At this she began to mentally rant, twos, twos, twos. They always come in twos. My children, grandchildren, Madara and Hashirama, and now Naruto and this Sasuke. They always come in twos. It never fails, with each pair comes greater disaster. Perhaps, I should find a way to stop the reincarnation at the source. During her mental rant, she reached into her bag to acquire her carrot cake, only to reach down further in horror. Who stole my carrot cake? Kaguya screamed in fury as black lightning rained down from the sky. In the arena, Naruto paled in terror, for he knew that there were 3 rules about Kaguya Otsutsuki. 1. Never speak about how great her children and grandchildren were. 2. Never argue with her, you will lose. 3, and probably most important, never take her carrot cake, or she'll fucking kill you, and that is if she feels merciful. The violet-eyed woman slowly turned and spotted Sakura munching on her carrot cake, and furthermore Naruto Baka is such a moron and, og. She screamed in pain as Kaguya snapped the banshee's wrist and muttered angrily, "You took my cake, so I'll take your hand." The rabbit goddess twisted Sakura's wrist at a full 360 and with a sharp tug ripped it off. As blood sprayed from the stump on Sakura's wrist, a Chunnin grabbed her and rushed her to the hospital. She snapped her fingers, making one Iruka Yumino appear next to her as she shoved some Ryo coins into his hand and demanded, "Go to the nearest bakery and get me a carrot cake. You have exactly 15 minutes. If you aren't back within that time, I'll kill a person in this stadium at 1-minute intervals until you arrive. Now get going. I didn't come to watch my prized student compete only to have my damn cake stolen." With a sharp kick, she sent the Chunnin flying before he could protest. Up in the Hokage booth, the Sandaime Hiruzen was thinking, who is this woman? Her chakra. It can't be human. The Kazekage thought with a small bead of sweat running down his forehead. This woman's chakra levels are enormous. Far surpassing even a Biju. I must make her my vessel, after Sasuke-kun of course. In the arena, Naruto sighed as he spoke, "Seems we've dragged this on for too long. Let's fight." The Hyuga smirked as he replied, "Yes, let's, whore son." Quote. In the stands, Kaguya and Kira had dark smiles stretch across their faces, with both thinking, he's dead. "What? Did you just call my mother?" asked the whiskered teen as his eyes flashed red. The Hyuga merely spoke arrogantly, "A whore, of course, what else could she have been to create a fool like you?" Who was and will forever be a dead last? The blonde cracked his knuckles as he thought, this mustn't register on an emotional level. As he sized up Neji and recalled his patterns of attack during his match with Hinata in the prelims, he thought, first, distract target. The blonde grinned as he flared his chakra slightly to stun the Hyuga, which succeeded as he sent a strike to the blonde's chest. Then block his blind jab. The blonde thought as he smacked away the incoming strike, counter with cross to left cheek. He thought as he sent a punch to the Hyuga's left cheek. Discombobulate. He continued thinking out his moves before making them as he slammed his open palms against Neji's ears. Dazed, he'll attempt wild haymaker, employ elbow block and body shot. He thought as Neji sent a haymaker to the blonde's head, who blocked it with ease using his elbow and sent a punch to the Hyuga's body, making his ribs crack. Block feral left, weaken right jaw. Naruto once again strategized as he slapped away a left hook from the Hyuga, then slammed his elbow against the right side of Neji's jaw. Now fracture. He sent a punch to the exact spot he had elbowed the Hyuga's jaw. Break cracked ribs. Naruto sent a punch to Neji's ribs, making a sickening crunch sound ringing through the air. Traumatize solar plexus. He sent a punch again, hitting the correct nerve plexus in the abdomen. Dislocate jaw entirely. He sent a hard jab to Neji's left jaw, dislocating it, making him stumble back, completely dazed from the blonde's brutal yet precise assault. Heel kick to diaphragm. He sent a kick to the Hyuga's upper torso just below the chest, sending him to the ground as the blonde summarized. In summary, ears ringing, jaw fractured, 3 ribs cracked, 4 broken, diaphragm hemorrhaging. Physical recovery. 6 weeks. Psychological recovery. 6 months. Capacity to insult my mother. Neutralized. All the people, except Kira and Kaguya, couldn't believe what they had witnessed. The dead last had beaten a Hyuga in taijutsu without breaking a sweat. The fight itself was over in less than a minute. Kaguya smirked at both her students' victory, and finally figuring out how to open the soda can as she drank its contents. She knew that there were 3 things that made her student lose his temper. First, praising his father whom he despised with all his being. Second, being lied to since he had been lied and cheated all his life. And third, insulting his mother. She smiled as she recalled the day she had pointed something most unusual out. Flashback. Kaguya and Naruto sat across from one another, taking a break from the training. They both drank tea. Though unknown to Naruto, she was studying the various residents of Konoha, more particularly the shinobi. She found a few good ones. The Hokage was pretty strong too. But all never could hope to even challenge her. Though she noticed the one called Kakashi was training the reincarnation of her idiot grandchild Indra, Sasuke. It honestly disgusted her. Though for some reason, Kaguya felt empty. Like something was missing. Though she had no idea what it was. As she stopped her scan of the village, she noticed something unusual. 4 chakra signatures in the same exact spot. It was Naruto. The first and second were his own and the Kyuubi, Amiko's chakra. But there were 2 others inside his body. With a snap of her fingers, she summoned forth the 2 unknown chakra signatures in his body, making them appear before the 2. Naruto had no idea what was going on, but he knew not to question his sensei since she'd explain. The 2 souls of both Kushina and Minato appeared in a ghost form. The former asking, "What's going on?" Exclamation mark. Sochi-kun. Tears formed in her eyes as she fell to her knees and started sobbing, which caused Naruto to ask, "Sochi, I'm your son." Minato nodded as he replied, "That's correct. I suppose you already know who I am." The blonde teen nodded, slightly shocked, then began asking various questions. As Kushina explained the fall of Uzu, her being taken to Konoha, and everything in between, then Minato explained the masked man and having to seal the Kyuubi inside Naruto's newborn body. All the while the blonde remained silent. The rabbit goddess, however, remained slightly apprehensive, for this would be the moment that Naruto could be the one to aid her, or just be another failure like her idiot children. Naruto grimaced as he began speaking, So that's it, huh? Fine then, I'll rebuild Uzu and get what is rightfully mine from Konoha. The blonde Hokage cringed at that as he spoke. Naruto, I know what Konoha did to you was wrong, but you must forgive them. Naruto's eyes flashed red as he sent a glare to his father. Go fuck yourself. Forgive them. Is that some kind of sick joke? Forgive them for hunting me down and forming mobs on my birthdays. Forgive them for trying to make me a goddamn retard and weakling. Exclamation mark. Forgive them for negligence in taking what belongs to me. Still, that begs the question, who put those seals on me and why? Though I think I've already got a good idea. He finished with a dark grin across his face. At this, Kushina got on her knees and bowed to her son, speaking in an almost pleading tone. Naruto-kun, I beg your forgiveness. I didn't agree with Minato making you the Jinchuriki. I warned him of how the village would treat you. If I could have, I would have taken the Kyuubi gladly for you. It is a mother's duty to protect her child. In the long run, I failed. I won't make excuses, and I'll accept whatever punishment you deem fair. Quote, Kaguya shed a lone tear down her cheek, for this was a true mother who would do anything for her child. A pit developed in her stomach, for she was the opposite of the red-haired woman. The rabbit goddess held no love for her children at all, because of Hagoromo's childish squandering of chakra. To humans, giving them more ways to kill each other and wage war. And her grandchildren for starting the cycle of war between their clans. Her other son Hamura, she knew not what became of him, after the fight with the Shinju, though, it was all a blur to her at that point for reasons unknown. Naruto stared at his mother as he spoke. I don't know what to say. In one of her few tender moments, Kaguya approached and placed a hand on his shoulder as she spoke softly, then don't say anything. Minato stared suspiciously at the strange woman and commented, You're the one who's corrupting my son, aren't you? The white-haired woman stared blankly at him before replying, HMPH, I don't need to resort to such tricks. Besides, your son became like this on his own after I removed those seals. The blonde Hokage glared at her as he spoke with clear irritation. I don't know why, but I'm sure those seals were there for a good reason. No child of mine would be focused on revenge. This made the red-haired mother leap to her feet and scream, So you approve of Konoha doing that to our son? The blonde Hokage slowly backed away from his wife, but Naruto spoke, Enough. Ka-san, I forgive you. But you, too, san, are an idiot. I'm sure the seals were there for a good reason. Sounds to me you care more about the village than family. Before he could protest, the rabbit goddess cut him off. I've heard enough. She pulled out the Shinigami's mask from her kimono and wore it for a moment, summoning the death god himself, who grabbed Minato and devoured his soul before disappearing again. The two Uzumaki's jaws were on the ground at that, for she had an artifact that could summon the Shinigami himself without the sacrifice needed. Who are you? Asked Kushina with wide eyes. The white-haired woman rubbed her temples, knowing this would be a long day. End flashback. After explaining her origins, Kushina volunteered to remain in the seal with the Kyuubi, Amiko, despite being offered a new body. Kushina mentioned she felt she wasn't ready yet. Naruto accepted that answer, though Kaguya was skeptical. But it wasn't really her business, so she placed the redhead back inside Naruto's seal. As Neji was carried away by the medics, Naruto yelled out, Who's next? Exclamation mark. I'll take him on. The yelling made most of the crowd sweat drop at his antics, though Kaguya knew that it was mostly his fighting instinct that was talking right now. The rabbit goddess' ears twitched as her sharp sense of hearing caught the conversation between the Hokages, and she was not pleased with where it was going. Once again it was talk of playing favorites to that brat Sasuke. She was very tempted to go up there and make the old man disqualify the brat, if only to spite her grandson's reincarnation, but she chose not to when she heard something interesting. It would seem the matches were being shuffled slightly. In this case, Naruto would fight Gaara after the other matches, meaning that the Uchiha would fight last against her student. She smirked at this. Not only would her student get a worthy opponent from Gaara, but he would also be able to beat the Uchiha boy as well. This works for me, she said as she took another sip of soda. In her head she was still counting down the exact time, and Aruka was about to be late. Her aim settled on a certain chain smoker as she counted in her head. 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, she stopped counting when He scarred Chunnin showed up gasping for air as he spoke between wheezes. Your cake. Ma'am. She snatched it from him and inspected it. It was still warm. When she cut it open she could already tell it was nice and fluffy inside as well. Congratulations. 14 seconds to spare. You should be proud, she commented as she began to cut a slice and chew on a bite, making her shiver in delight. Why would you threaten to kill people over carrot cake? Aruka yelled in anger, causing the rabbit goddess to reply bluntly, because it's what I wanted. Quote. Everyone that heard her jaw dropped and screamed, that's all. The Chunnin teacher was about to protest further but found a tanto pressed against his neck. It was the pale snake-eyed girl who spoke in a chilling tone, go away, or I'll cut through your neck until I feel bone. Quote. He slowly backed away from her as the tanto slipped back into her sleeve. My student found a good one. I like this Kira girl, thought the violet-eyed woman as she offered a slice of cake in thanks to the yellow-eyed girl who accepted. Time ticked away as the two women sat in boredom. The puppet guy Konkuro forfeited his match, before it even started, making Kaguya suspicious. Then came the battle of wits between Shikamaru and Tamari. The boy might have forfeited, but in both women's opinion he had won anyway. The violet-eyed woman sensed a few females approach as she asked without turning, what is it you want? The one wearing the trench coat replied, chill lady. Mind if we sit with you? You've got the best seats. To prove her point she motioned around, showing that a full 3 rows were clear since no one wanted to sit next to the goddess or her pale companion, since both civilians and shinobi alike were terrified of them. Why? She asked bluntly, noticing she was starting to wither in age, bringing out a small vial of Naruto's blood to drink. Because we want to cheer for him and our coworkers don't like that idea. The brown-eyed woman answered with a big smile. In a single motion she gulped back the blood, causing her skin to tighten to its smooth form, her face to resume its pale yet regal appearance, and her blood to begin flowing normally again. The white-haired woman accepted the answer she received as she asked, names. Quote. The sexy and single Anko Mitarashi. Yelled the woman called Anko with a proud smile which earned her a bonk on the head from a red-eyed woman. Forgive my boisterous friend. I am Kurenai Uehi. Kurenai spoke in a polite tone which both Kira and Kaguya acknowledged with a nod. I'm Hana Inuzuka. These are the Heimaru brothers. The Inu Nin spoke with a smile while using a tissue to wipe her runny nose. Her 3 partners sniffed the pale cannibal and quickly hid behind Hana while making whining noises. Hana didn't know what got into them. They probably smelled something they didn't like, but currently she had a cold, so her sense of smell was useless. A woman with purple hair bowed and spoke, my name is Yugao Azuki. It is a pleasure to meet you both. The rabbit goddess nodded as she introduced herself, I am Kaguya Otsutsuki. My companion is Kira. The pale girl nodded as Anko spoke, yo. Good to see you again. Thanks for saving my bacon that time. Quote. A question mark appeared above Kira's head as she replied, bacon? What bacon? You have any? The dango lover sweat dropped as she wondered if this girl understood figures of speech. In the arena Naruto was stretching, waiting for the Proctor Genma. Gaara had a confused look on his face as the Aikibi spoke in a nervous tone, watch yourself boy. This guy was trained by Oba-san. The rabbit goddess. He can't be human anymore. Back the fuck out now or he'll fucking kill you. The Sanbiju screamed at the end in terror. For once Gaara ignored Shukaku as an evil grin appeared on his face. When the blonde finished stretching he mumbled, 1. The Suna Nin raised an eyebrow as he asked, 1. What Uzumaki? The blonde grinned as he replied, 1 punch equals my victory. In the stands Kiba Inuzuka asked, is he serious? While in the contestants' booth Shino's glasses gleamed as he spoke quietly, it is logical to think that there is one of 2 reasons for Naruto-san's claim. First, he's become arrogant, which is unlikely given how easily he defeated Neji-san. Second, he has some form of technique to win. Genma raised his hand and shouted out, "Begin fight." Without warning, a spear of sand shot towards Naruto, who smirked as disappeared from view, then reappeared behind T. He red-haired Jinchuriki whispering to him, "Time for the Raikudo no Ken." Before the redhead could turn, the whiskered teen hit his back with an open palm, then, P.